The Premier League, the Championship, Stoke City, West Brom, Middlesbrough, Portsmouth. I mean, these are all established names in English football. I feel like I'm sitting here with football royalty.
Yeah. No, it's been a very, very good career, a long career as well, and I've enjoyed it. You know, football's not easy. Management is really, really difficult at times, but yeah, I've had a great time. I've left school at 16. Went to Bristol and played. Playing career was mostly in the lower leagues, Championship, downwards. But I did my coaching badges when I was really early. I was really, really interested in coaching and the work that was being done behind the scenes. I used to go to Lilleshall as a young lad, even though I was still playing, and watch great coaches work. The late Bobby Robson, Don Howe, Dave Sexton, Howard Wilkinson, people of that ilk who were really, really top coaches and innovators as well. Malcolm Allison, I just go on and on and on. And it was a week's work, that most people involved in football or involved in coaching used to go on. It was a week's course, and the FA used to bring in coaches from abroad. And it was magnificent to see these people work and learn off them. And I still use hell of a lot of stuff that I learned in those times or those weeks that I would spend just after the season had finished watching these people work.
So what is the next desire, project or target for Tony Pulis?
To control the 7 grandchildren I've got, most probably, as much as anything else. No, I'm quite happy to look at anything that comes along. I'm not saying that, I'm going to dive in most probably like I did last time, but yeah, if it was right, I'm not so sure what my wife would think about that. Like I say, with the family now at the stage that it is, I've spent a hell of a lot of time away from home. After the Bournemouth job, my first job was Bournemouth. Then I went to Gillingham. I was travelling. And from that point onwards, apart from, the brief spell, the 7 months at Pompey, where, I had a wonderful time. It's a fantastic football club. I've been away from home. So, I think Deb would most probably prefer me to settle or get something nice and close now. But we'll see what happens. You can never say never to anything in football.
What is it that keeps your hunger for the game?
I've been very fortunate. I think if you speak to managers who have maintained that that longevity within the game, you have to have a certain determination and love for the job that you're doing. And I think that's most probably kept me going. I've been a very, very fortunate boy, actually. When you think I was brought up, big family, living in a small 3-bedroom detached house, and there was 8 of us, living in a small house. And I knew from an early age that if I ever get the opportunity or the chance, then I would grasp it with both hands and work as hard as I possibly could to maintain and be able to work in a very, very privileged industry. And I mean a very privileged industry.
You are known for strong team tactics and organisation and really bringing both players and clubs together. Tell us what we don't know about Tony and football.
Well, I class myself as a purposeful manager. People talk about pragmatic. I'd rather say purposeful. I've always been determined. I've always had a direction, or I believe clubs should go in. I've been very, very fortunate, as you've said, to work at some very, very good clubs. Usually picking them up when they're not doing so well. But, people, I think if you look at my career, people forget that I've been promoted out of every league in England. Obviously never been relegated, thank goodness. And along the way, been to cup finals, been to the latter stages of a UEFA Cup competition as well. It's been good, and my principles have never changed. I've never moved on the basis of what I think is necessary. The game's moved on, and you have to move on with the game. But there's certain principles that I don't think ever change. That the organisation, determination that you want from your players, the discipline that you want from your players, the respect that you want from your players, not just towards the person who's guiding the ship, but towards everybody connected with that football club, whether it's, you know, the tea lady, you know, the person who cleans the rooms after the lads have finished in the dressing rooms, right through to the chairman. I think all those words that I've just used, you know, some people call them old-fashioned, but they're proper words. Yeah, I've always stuck to that. I've never ever moved away from that. People ask me about, you know, the teams that you built. You know, I had 4 years at Gillingham, and the players there, I think if you speak to them, the spirit within the dressing room, you know, they worked together, they played together, they had a great time on the pitch, they had a great time off the pitch. And the period at Stoke, you know, I tell people now, people rang me up the other day about Shawcross and him going to Miami, and Ryan, you know, joining the football club as a 19-year-old. At the end, you know, at Stoke City, we built a fabulous training facility. We couldn't get the players to leave. You know, they'd train and they'd have their lunch. At 3 o'clock, some of them would still be hanging around, and, you know, have to go up and shoo them home because they enjoyed the place so much, and they felt as though the place was theirs. It was almost like a second home to them, and that's the spirit and togetherness that, you know, you do try to, you know, get the players to engage in and bring. And I've been always a big believer in having a strong base through the team, a base of players that have got good characters, who are strong characters. You can have one or two fluffy ones around them, one or two, you know, Herberts who might not be as dedicated as the others. But as long as you've got that strong, organised background, or people with good discipline who will look after the dressing room for you, then, you know, you're not far away from being successful or enjoying your period at the club.
Yeah. With the Premier League, it's ever more pressured, and clubs are looking for experience instead of just youthful experience of former player legends. Would you take a pressure-filled job in the Premier League?
Well, I think the biggest change since I started management right through to this moment now is the layers in between the manager and the chairman, or the owner, more than anything else, or the coach and the owner, the manager, the owner. And when I was younger, when my first job, I took over from Harry at Bournemouth in the 90s, early 90s. And there was Keith McAllister, who was the secretary. There was myself and Norman Haywood, who was the chairman. And the three of us run the football club. You know, I reported to Norman every day, or spoke to Norman every day. We'd have a board meeting once a month. But that was who run the football club. If you now look at the way football clubs have grown and the industry has grown, you know, it's a multi-million-pound industry now. There's layers and layers and layers now between yourself and the owner, yourself and the chairman. And what we haven't done as managers, I think, and we're told it, that you have to manage upwards. I don't think as managers we've actually realised and recognised how important that is today. And I was fortunate to have Jerry Francis and David Kemp working for me for a long, long time. And those two were older than me, more experienced than me. And they would look after you know, if the chairman wasn't happy with what was going on, or chief executive or whoever, Jerry and Dave were very, very good at almost washing that away before it actually came to my door. So it allowed me to carry on with my coaching and work with the team, which is the most important thing. If I was advising young managers now going into the Premiership, I'd actually say to them that they most probably need now a coach who's going to coach the directors, who's actually going to be more around what's happening behind the scenes than actually on the pitch. Because managers now are coaches. You know, they're you know, the managers. Most managers now are on the pitch, you know, all the time. And what I think there's a weakness in, and what I think there's a little bit of or something that can help these managers, or these younger managers today, is to have someone that they bring in. They're not already brought in, but someone who they bring in and will leave with them. So they actually look after upstairs. And if there is any, you know, any doubts about certain things, or if the directors or the sporting directors or the chairman or the owner have doubts or reservations of how you're going, instead of trying to get through to you, who, when you're a manager, you're looking after everything. You can realize that this person can actually sit down with these people and put your point of view over, and also fight your corner. And that might give then the manager or the coach a little bit more time and a little bit more opportunity, to impress on the football club and on the team and on the supporters and the noise that comes from the social medias now. More time to become and be successful.
Especially during a time like this as well, where games are just coming in thick and fast as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely astonishing that the what we're asking players to do now, to play almost 3 games a week, for almost a full season at the championship level. Premierships is a little bit different. Now I know people will say, well, they get paid really good money and it's only a game of football. They're only playing for 90 minutes. But I can tell you it's pretty intense mentally and physically, and especially now at this time of the year when there's so many things to be contested, whether you're down the bottom or up the top of the league, the pressure builds. And, I have to say I'm very, very fortunate, and you're very lucky that I don't deal in social media and all this stuff very often. But the players today have been brought up with it. So they read all the criticisms and all the stuff that goes on with these websites and whatever it is, Twitter and wherever they look at and read. And they need counselling at times, and they need looking after. So it's different, it's difficult, but it's still, it's a wonderful job, and there's millions of people out there who'd love to have been able to have done it.
Just going back to what you said about, the players needing counselling and stuff around the social media criticism, do you feel like there's been a rise in the players that are perhaps getting counselling?
I think there's a massive responsibility on the government. I really do. I think, I was, like I say, I was very, very fortunate to be brought up in a very multiracial part of South Wales. You don't get no more multiracial than the docks and around the dock areas. So, it is just water off a duck's back when I was younger. If you took some stick and took some criticism, you took some stick, you took some criticism. Now we've become much more guarded in the way we live and the way we respect other people and other people's lives. I just think the government have to step up and really, really go for this, and I mean really go for it. It's very difficult. I understand that there's enormous amounts of money that these people give the government for the money they're making. I think we mustn't forget the governments are, but they have a responsibility, the government, to look after and respect people, and especially individual people who are being targeted. Yeah,
no, I strongly agree with that. Who are your 3 favourite players in the Premier League and why?
Well, I think Liverpool winning the Championship. I think you've got winning the Premier League last year. You've got to pick someone from their team. So I'd pick Jordan Henderson. I think he's been a wonderful, wonderful professional. I think every game he plays, his determination and his attitude, never mind his ability, obviously he's got wonderful ability to play at such a great club and at a great level. I think you've really got to pick him. I think his leadership as well around the place is what every club really needs and desires. So I'd go Jordan. I think Kevin De Bruyne has been absolutely fantastic over a period of time now. And I like him because, he'll score goals, but he creates goals. But he runs forward and plays forward. He's a player that's always looking to pass forward, to pass people in, to play people in. And I like that in a player. Again, I was brought up, if I played in midfield, your first touch always had to be forward, to look forward, to play forward, because we were told in those days you had to give the ball to the best players on the pitch, and the best players on the pitch usually were the forwards, would be the wingers, or it'd be the centre forwards. So you would encourage really to get the ball to them as quickly as possible. But Kevin's I'll look at him and I marvel at not only his attitude, but his vision, his quality in possession, and he scores all sorts of goals. He'll score tap-ins and goals from long range. And the third one, I've just talked about the forwards. I've just talked about how special they are, and they are special players. I think Harry Kane is most probably would be the other one I'd pick. I think he's the best centre forward we've had for a long time in England. He leads the line fantastically well. He's got great ability bringing people in, but he can be very, very selfish, and that's a strength. Mm-hmm. And he scored so many goals because he's a little bit selfish. But I just think he's a wonderful player. And every time you watch a game with Tottenham playing, I always think Kane's going to score. It's one of them. You turn the telly on and you're watching them, and you think they're going to score a goal because of Kane as much as anything else.
The link up with him and Son is really good and strong.
Fabulous. Yeah, absolutely. Son, your favourite?
I'm actually an Arsenal fan.
Oh.
Who are the top 3 managers currently in the Championship, and why?
Well, it's difficult because you've got some, the quality of managers now in the Championship is excellent, and you get, obviously there's people you could, I'm going to go over the people who go, oh, why didn't you pick him, and why didn't you pick him because he's done this. Steve Cooper, I think, at Swansea, his first managerial appointment, I think Steve has done absolutely fantastic. Being a Welsh club as well, and me being Welsh, not English, I'm going actually go for Steve. I just think he's done a fabulous job as a young rookie manager to go in and achieve what he's achieved. He sold some players, made him quite a bit of money, so he's been very careful in that respect. But he's also brought in some good players, and they've done, I think, exceptionally well. Daniel Farke, I think, has got to get a mention. To get promoted, and again, being a foreign manager, get promoted to the Premiership, which was absolutely fantastic, and then go through a season where things don't go for you, and the Premiership is miles away from anything in the Championship. To then have that thrown on top of you, and his first experience of Premier League football, to then get relegated, which, thank God I've never experienced, but I could imagine it's soul destroying. To pick the team up again and get them in the position they're in now, and it looks as though they're going to get promoted again, is just fantastic. It's just remarkable. I know Daichi and other people have done it, but Daniel's a foreign manager and someone who hasn't got the experience of knowing what the Premiership was like, and the disappointment it must have been for that football club to get relegated, having waited for such a long time. So he'd be the second one, and then the third, the third one, only because I like him, and he's a similar age to me, and he's done fantastic stepping into another Welsh club, is Mick McCarthy. I think every time I listen to Mick, he's down to earth, solid sort of bloke who doesn't mix his words. He's not pretentious in anything he does, and he's been around for such a long time. I'm hoping and praying again, like being a Welshman, that that he can pull something off very special at Cardiff. And if he does, there'll be no one more pleased than me, because he's been around the block a few times. He took a hell of a lot of criticism at a couple of the clubs he's managed, and he's never changed. He's the same bloke as what he was 15 years ago. There's no change in Mick. So, and he's universally liked in the game for the way he is and the way he comes over. But there's, like I said, there's loads of other managers that you could mention that have done fantastically well. And, Neil Warnock's got a wonderful record in getting teams promoted, and Middlesbrough have got a great chance now. They're coming up at the rails, similar to, to 2 or 3 other clubs that could nick in and get one of those playoff places. Yeah, there's some really, really, really good. Michael O'Neill at Stoke has done a steady job, steadying the ship there. They nearly got relegated last year, and they're close to the playoffs. So, Michael's got to take some credit there. But I could go through every club and be positive about most of the managers.
Based on star resources and players, who do you feel will win the Premier League this season?
I think it's already been won. Yeah, I think it's all over. I have to say that last year, looking at Pep, I thought he looked a little bit tired. He looked he looked a little bit drained. He had the unfortunate happening about his mum, and I think that most probably knocked him as well. But he's come back. You know, you look at him now, he's got that bounce about him. He's got that smile on his face. He's got that confidence back. He's got that real glint in his eye. And I can't see anybody stopping him. I think they've been absolutely fantastic so far this season. It's amazing. You know, we've talked about players and how important certain players are. If you look at Liverpool, and they had all their players fit last year, and they won it comfortably. Man City had injury problems, more so at the back than up front, and fell away last year. You spin the coin this year, Liverpool have had their injuries at the back. Man City have got the back players sorted out, and Man City have run away with it. You know, and people talk about forwards, and I have just talked about Kane and how important they are. But actually, the spine of your team, if you look at just look at and analyse those two clubs and how they've done so well and how they've dropped off a little bit. If you analyse it, it's been the backbone of their team that has been affected. You know, has been the two centre halves in both both cases of two massive clubs. It's interesting to look at it and analyse it. But no, I can't see anybody touching Man City. Anyone.
Strength throughout the squad.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
A lot of clubs and international teams will be looking around now for the summer. Are there any boundaries to the type of jobs you would take? For example, would you manage a national team from another continent?
Yeah, like I said, the biggest thing for me now is I jumped into one and jumped back out of one very quickly. The biggest thing is just that it's got to be right. It's got to be, I think I know what I need. I think I know what's needed to be successful. But I also now got to a stage where it's got to be right for me as well. And, that the type of manager I was 15, 20 years ago was different to what I am today, and the experience that I've got today. I look at football clubs now and analyse football clubs a lot stronger than what I did when I was younger. When I was younger, I'd just go in, head down and get on with it, and wouldn't worry and wouldn't care about certain things. Today, I'm a much more, I think, or I look at things more constructively at football clubs and what they should be doing to make them better clubs, not just in my time, but then further on down the line, and the responsibility of taking over these clubs. I think you understand when you get older, never mind what club you go into, you're only there as a custodian for a period. What you've got to try and do, whether supporters appreciate it or not, is look after that football club and try and put things in place that's going to make that football club a stronger football club for when you leave. And, that's most probably what I don't want to do, is go into football clubs and think, well, I can't do that. I can't make it better. I can't make it stronger. I like to go in and try and achieve, you've got to get results. And if you don't win football matches, you're out. And that is more so now than ever before. But there's other things you can improve along the way, even over a short period of time. So it would have to be right for me, and I would have to be right for that job. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
How strong is English club and national football right now? And is it the best that it has ever been?
Well, I think what has happened is, 15 years ago, is it 15? How long ago was it when the academies started? Well, when that started, I actually wasn't a great advocate for it, because I didn't see, two things. One thing is still hurts me a little bit and pings with me, and that is the number of people that go into academies. in respect of the number of the people that are going to make footballers. Because what happens is, and I'll make this point, and it's a very, very, very important point. There's a lot of boys go into academies and they think because they're joining an academy, they're going to be football players. Mm-hmm. So they need a lot of work behind the scenes to make, if they don't make it, to make the rest of their lives still important to them. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of players who leave football having been their best player in school, the best player in the town, but then get into a level that they just fall short. And they've had nothing but football in their lives. And then when you take that away, you know, their lives are completely and utterly empty and shot. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very, very vigilant and spend a lot more time. And I'm sure they do spend a lot of money on it, on looking after these boys who get released. And like I say, the majority of them will never make the grade. The second thing that has happened, which has been a game changer for me, is the fact that they now allow the lads to go out on loan. When it's first started up, everybody talked about an identity. You know, Chelsea couldn't let players out because other clubs didn't play the Chelsea way. And I'm just mentioning Chelsea. It could have been your club, Arsenal. You know, yeah. Wenger wouldn't let them go out because they had to play a certain way. They had to do this, they had to do that. So they ended up playing under 23s football, or football through to under 23s or under 21s. We've never, ever get in a feel, most of these players, of what it was like to play in front of a crowd, what it was like to play for a manager who needed that result to keep himself in a job, and also criticism for not playing well. So you build almost up like an immune system to criticism, which you get in football as a player. So these lads never got it. 4 or 5 years ago, people started to release these players and understand that academy football alone, playing on a park or on a training ground, was never going to be the right preparation for these kids to play professional football. And they've let players out. And I think the last 4 or 5 years, it might even be longer than that. It's just snowballed. The amount of players that have gone out on loan from their mother clubs and then come back and been successful. We talked about Harry Kane. What did he have? 4 or 5 loan spells before he came back and is the player now. You know, you look at Reece James, who's been fantastic for Chelsea, went out to Wigan and had a time at Wigan. You know, that Mount went to Derby and had that time and then came back a better player. And they've done that. There's some tremendous players in the academy. And at 17, 18, if they're good enough, they should be out playing football. And if it's 4th division or 3rd division football, give my age away there. If it's 3rd division football, then it should be 3rd division football. It should be 2nd division football, championship football, whatever. But it's proper football. And that's what the lads need. If they're good enough, they will adjust. People say, oh, they're not big enough, they're not strong enough. You know, we used to be told, and we learned at a young age, that if you didn't move the ball quick enough, the big, stronger lads would wallop you. So you got used to moving. If you played against men, you move the ball quickly. And that's what these kids have learned. They've gone out and they've played against good opposition in the lower leagues. And the lower, you know, this is the greatest country in the world for professional leagues. No other country runs their football like we do in England. And nobody runs it at a level that we do in England. And you know, these kids have really benefited from being able to go out, whether it's in England or some of them, you know, I know Chelsea send a lot abroad, but it's proper football. And they've come back better players. And I think we're at a real good level now. You know, the Germans are not daft. And have a look how many German clubs now are coming over and trying to sign young English players.
Yeah,
it's amazing. You know, it's gone under the radar a little bit. Well, they're only doing that because our system's better. I think is getting better and better, and these players are getting better and better.
With all the new visa points and rules in place for players, is this now the long-awaited time of the academy and young English players to now be given opportunities?
I just hope and pray that, you know, that it just snowballs again. I think there's a case for, you know, clubs, especially lower down, to, you know, take these kids. There's simply, like I say, some wonderful talent again, there was always a negativity from maybe the clubs lower down, thinking whether the kids would be strong enough. Well, the way the game's changed, and the way tackling's been almost taken out of the game, the physicality now is not as great as it used to be. And most of the clubs now are playing on decent pitches at decent stadiums with decent training grounds. So yeah, I do think football in this country, especially at the youth level, is definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah. When there has been an availability for an English job, have you ever questioned why an established manager like yourself wasn't given a fair crack of the whip, whilst foreign managers like Sven-Göran Eriksson and Fabio Capello had huge wads of cash thrown at them?
No, I'm absolutely delighted with my life. I think that I'll never ever envy anybody else. I've had 10, 11 clubs. I've had great times, great experiences at all the clubs. There's always, I can look back and there's always things that you think, oh, blimey, that wasn't so good. But I'd rather look at the positives and what I've achieved and what I've, the people I've met, the people I've worked with, and I've had some wonderful, wonderful experiences. I've had a wonderful life. Like I say, from where I've come from, and where I was born into, to actually to have experienced what I've experienced is just, I've been blessed. I can't say it any other way. And to say that other people have had more than me and got more than me and this, that, and the other, and should I have been given this and should I have been given that? Now, good luck to them. Tony Pulis is sat in this seat here now. Talked to a very pretty girl about the sport that he loves, and has been very fortunate to be in since he was 16 years of age.
Yeah, very, very blessed, I must agree. Not everyone gets to do the jobs that they love.
No, I know. So. There's lots of stuff in it and it's got tougher than what it's ever got because of the social media, because of the opportunity that people have to criticize. You can start up a fire now so much easier than what it used to be. And there's, like I said to you, there's so much pressure now on chief executives, football directors, to get results and be part of something successful. And every year there's only a couple of clubs that can be successful. So it's definitely become more difficult. I've been fortunate that I've missed, the real force of social media. It must be, especially for people who are on it all the time, must be very, very difficult to read people, giving you the abuse that some of these people give.
COVID-19 is the major topic we could not avoid. So should football have continued or just top flight games? I mean, what is your thoughts around it?
No, I like I say, I think, again, the medic, you've got to go with the medical experts, and you've got to understand where they're coming from, and National Health Service and the people who work in the National Health Service have to be protected, and we have to do that properly. But outdoors, people kept saying outdoors wasn't a problem. If you were outdoors mixing, it wasn't a problem. I have to give a lot of credit to football, to the Premier League, to the Football League, and to all the associations and all the people who have dealt with organising running. For the short period of time I was at Sheffield Wednesday, the protocol that you have to go through is it's really tough, very professional, and it needs to be, and it needed to be, because if we're out there playing and doing what we love, we have to show people that we're doing it in the correct manner. And I think it's been a release for people. I think it's brilliant for me to turn the telly on every evening and watch a game or two or three. It's killed my wife, mine, but that's another thing. But I'm desperate for it to get back. I thought managing in it was soulless. I didn't get no enjoyment myself from walking out to an empty stadium. I found it, like I say, this country and the leagues is tribal. Every ground you go to, every club you go into, it is tribal. It's their football club. They live and die for that football club. The same with you and Arsenal. It's the same everywhere, wherever you go, and that competition drives an atmosphere that is just wonderful. And the sooner we get it back, and the sooner we get back to normal, the better it will be for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all counting down to that day.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your time today, Tony. It's been very lovely speaking to you.
Good. I hope you've enjoyed it, and you look after yourself. And thanks for asking the questions.
Oh, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
No problems.